Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to MST.TV. This is Nishi bringing you guys one last Market Watch episode before the end of 2019. So in the last episode, we looked at a bunch of cards that had sort of spiked up with the announcement of the new Master Rule adjustments coming this April. Now, if you guys have paid attention to those card prices over the last couple of days, you'll have noticed that a lot of those card prices have tanked from where they were at when I talked about them before. And that's a good thing, right? It's still really early. The Master Rule changes aren't for another like 4 months. We don't know what decks are going to be part of the meta at that time or what strategies are necessarily going to be good. So for the most part, the hype that we're seeing on the market now is people looking at cards with potential, creating a lot of price spikes that are almost certainly going to wear off over the next few months. So in today's video, we're going to talk about some more of the cards that have seen attention over the last week or so that people are hoping are going to be good in April as well. As usual, I want you guys to be a little bit cautious when looking at these cards, selling into the hype that is going on right now, and then buying them back later for cheaper after prices have settled back down. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with a card that I believe actually already spiked when I did the previous video that I must have missed, and that is Millennium Eyes Restrict. So with the new Master Rule changes, we don't need to be as concerned about having a zone open to summon Millennium Eyes Restrict 2 with instant fusion. We can just summon it off to the side, use it to protect us from hand traps while we combo off, which is a really big buff to this card and definitely makes it a lot stronger under the new Master Rule adjustments. Now, as a result, we've seen the card bought out peaking at $70 to $80, but now settling at between like $58 to $60. So admittedly, this card is going to be a very strong card in my opinion. However, I do have a couple of concerns about picking up the card now. The first is that the card came out basically like a full 2 years ago, and it is definitely due for a reprint. I could definitely see it being reprinted in either Dual Overload or this year's Battles of Legends set, which is something you should definitely be wary of if you're wanting to pick up this card or if you're holding on to it. Now, the other thing that I've heard people talking about is the possibility of addressing instant fusion on the ban list, either by banning or limiting it, either of which would obviously mean that Millennium Eyes Restrict won't see nearly as much play as people are expecting, and the price would drop accordingly. Now, personally, I am not holding on to any copies of this card because I'm more afraid of the possibility of it being reprinted. Now, if you do want to use this card in the interim, I would maybe hold on to like a single copy, but definitely sell any extras that you're holding on to just in case. Next up, Fright for Reborn was actually bought out just over the weekend. Now, this is an ultra rare card that was only available from Duelist Pack Dimensional Guardians, a set that absolutely no one really bought into, and as a result, there are extremely limited quantities available on the market, and when the card was bought out, it is currently sitting at a low price on TCG Player of about $35. Now, a fair amount of people are looking at Fluffles as a deck that will be good under the new Master Rule adjustments, as they can spam the board with fusion monsters without having to worry about using links. However, I believe that the decision to buy out Fright for Reborn was a pretty bad one. While it is an archetype card that has limited quantities available, it isn't actually needed in the deck. I believe that some builds play like one copy, if that, but a lot of builds really don't play it at all, although maybe there's potential for this to change under the new Master Rule adjustments. Personally, I'm just not really big on the Fluffle deck like overall. I think the deck is really scary and it has a lot of potential only when it's going second. It does absolutely nothing if it's forced to go first, to be honest. Also, when we look at a card like Fright for Kraken, that was just bought out last week, it's already dropped down to $13 from its previous high of $30, and that's a card that's actually played in the deck. Also, this is another card that was released more than 2 years ago and hasn't been reprinted, so it's pretty likely that we're gonna see a reprint in the near future. Same sort of thing, either in like the Battles of Legends set this year or Dual Overload. Overall, I think that this card is just another poorly chosen buyout target, and while it may take longer for the price of this card to settle back down, I would absolutely not be buying into any of the hype, even if you want to play the Fluffle deck. Okay, so next up is a card that I think people have been talking about ever since the Master Rule announcement was made, but was actually bought at a much more gradual pace. I think that people are talking about Get Out being much stronger because of the emphasis on spamming out cards from your extra deck and how many more decks are going to be able to do that more easily. People are going to be summoning a lot of monsters really quickly, and Get Out allows you a lot of flexibility in choosing what cards you want to get rid of when you want to. Now, in my own opinion, I think that the card is outclassed by Dimensional Barrier and Compulsory Evacuation Device, though I can understand how each card would be better in different scenarios. Now, the card was only like a $5 to $7 card before. It has reached a high of like $15, but it's currently sitting down at around $11. Now, I think that there's a lot of reason to be skeptical about this card. If the card wasn't good during Link format, I don't think there's too much reason to think that it will be that much better under the new Master Rule. The card has seen a minimal amount of success, I think seeing like play in the odd Paleozoic or Altergeist deck, but that's really about it. Also important to note is that it is due to be reprinted in the Megatins this year, so probably around August, while the new Master Rule doesn't come into effect until April. So even if the card does see an increase in play and therefore an increase in price, it's most likely going to be reprinted soon after. Overall, I do think that if you already have the card, it might be worth holding on to a couple copies of it to see kind of like where it goes. But if you have an opportunity to sell the card for a hyped up price, I would definitely do so, and I wouldn't be going out of your way to hoard additional copies of this card either. The next card that I'm looking at here is one that I've been paying attention to for the last little while, and that card is Dark Ruler No More. So I think that overall, Dark Ruler No More has been largely outclassed by Nibiru as far as like hype for the cards from the Megatins go. Dark Ruler No More allows you to break through a board, but Nibiru gets rid of the board before your opponent has a chance to fully develop it, and it can stop their turns immediately. However, I think that Dark Ruler No More might finally have its time to shine under the new Master Rule adjustments. Because you don't have to go into a Link monster first, it is much easier to set up a way to negate the effect of Nibiru before comboing off. So you can summon something like Borreload Savage Dragon or Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon earlier on in your combo in order to protect your board. As a result, it's definitely possible that we're going to see an increase in the play of Dark Ruler No More as people have to consider alternative board breaking options. While the card hasn't seen any sort of like huge buyouts, it has steadily increased in price over time. Before it was only like $2 to $3, and now it's basically a $5 card. I think that as people all pick up this card over the next few months, we can expect its price to gradually increase over time as well. So if you don't have your copies already, this is definitely something that I would be trying to pick up sooner rather than later. As the card is also only a few months old, much like Nibiru, I'm not expecting this card to see a reprint anytime in the near future, so there's a lot of potential and room for the card to go up in price. Alright, next up we have Blackwing Shamoon the Poison Wind. So one of the other decks that people have been considering under the new Master Rule adjustments is Blackwings. Now, Blackwings have always had the ability to flood the field pretty easily. However, this was a lot harder to do under Master Rule 4, where you had to carefully manage your zones and link arrows. Now, however, the deck is free to combo off a lot more easily without having to consolidate resources into link monsters to open up additional zones with. We've seen a lot of different Blackwing cards bought out over the years, and while there are a lot of potential targets, the one that was chosen this time is Shamoon. This allows you to activate a Black Whirlwind from your deck, as well as gives you an extra normal summon that you can proc Black Whirlwind with. This card helps a lot with the consistency of Blackwing builds, as Black Whirlwind is obviously a really important card that allows you to generate advantage. Now, this card was only available in Legendary Duelist White Dragon Abyss, a Legendary Duelist set that is about a year and a half old. So for this one, the choice is like up to you guys. By the time that the new Master Rule comes around, I personally would expect the card to be reprinted. However, it's just a super rare from a side set, and it could definitely very easily be overlooked and ignored. We also don't have any Blackwing support on the horizon, so it's not like it's necessarily going to be on Konami's radar. Now, if you're a dedicated Blackwing fan and you're really looking forward to playing the deck again under the new Master Rule adjustments, I would say that you can go ahead and hold on to the card. However, if you're just sitting on an extra copy in your trade binder, I would say it's always safer to move a card now while it's hyped up than to hold on to a card, hope it goes up even more later on, and getting burned that way. So the next hyped up card that we're talking about is number 92, Heartearth Dragon. So this is a Dragon rank 9 monster that has the potential to banish your opponent's entire field, as well as become like a really big Gren Maju da Aiza type card. The real reason behind this card's hype is number 97, Draglubion, a rank 8 monster from Battles of Legend that allows you to special summon a Dragon Xyz number monster from your extra deck with an Xyz material. Obviously, a lot like cards like Bahamut Shark or Ultimaya Zulkin, which we talked about in the previous Market Watch, this effect was a lot harder to resolve when you had to open up link zones in order to use the effect. However, under the new Master Rule adjustments, this is one card that can be summoned off of Jaglubion and then potentially blow out your opponent with if it resolves. So sure, this card is potentially really great. However, I think it is next to impossible to be able to resolve this effect consistently and at a competitive event, and I think that people have realized that over the last little while as well. So at one point, like, the Ghost Rares were all bought out and you couldn't get Ghost Rare copies, even the Unlimiteds, for less than like $40 or so, because someone just completely cleaned them off of the market. Now, however, we are looking at $35 for Ghost Rare First Edition copies, $25 for Ghost Rare Unlimited copies, and around $19 for an Ultimate Rare copy. Now, these prices are still a bit higher than before, so if you have the Ultimate or Unlimited Ghost Rare versions, I would personally probably be selling them, though I would keep the Ghost Rare First Eds for now, because they'll probably stay up on the higher end a little bit as First Edition Ghost Rares. Now, it is extremely important to note here that while this card hasn't been reprinted here in North America, it was reprinted in Germany in their advent calendar from 2014 as a super rare, and those copies were really easy to find over there. I remember picking up like 9 copies for like literally less than like 50 cents each. Honestly, I wouldn't be paying more than like $3 to $5 maybe for a German super rare copy, even if you really want one, if even that much, right? So don't allow yourself to be baited into buying one of those copies at a hype price. I actually believe there's someone trying to sell some of these copies on TCG Player under the ultra rare listings for $20 a piece, and those are technically the lowest on the market right now, so a lot of people might fall for that. Please don't fall for it. Just wait for the hype to die back down and save your money. Don't waste your money on this card that you should realistically be able to get for only $1 or $2. Alright, so a really quick note here about number 93 Utopia Keizer. So this is a card that was first only available as a prize card, but then was made a secret rare in a Battles of Legends set. It is also theoretically one of those cards that is able to summon Xyz monsters from the extra deck and can now take advantage of the lack of Link Arrow requirements. Now, I think that at one point a long time ago, someone topped with this card before the Link era was like ever a thing, but as far as I know, it was just once, and the super rare version of this card didn't really go anywhere crazy like the way Minerva did. This card was previously only $1 or $2, but is now currently like a $7 card. I think that this card is obviously pretty gimmicky and shouldn't be really looked at as meta changing or game changing or anything like that. It's just kind of one of those things that's really cute if you get the chance to resolve it. However, this is a price jump that you guys should be aware of if you have the card sitting in your dollar binder or something like that. And finally, the last card I want to talk about here is Lovey the Sea Dragon. This is a rank 3 Xyz monster that can special summon a level 4 or lower banished monster to your field by detaching an Xyz material from this card. So I don't know exactly why, but it actually looks like first edition ultimate rare copies were bought out from TCG Player as there are no quantities left. Now you can still grab unlimited copies for around $15 if you want, and there are a couple of lightly played first edition versions, though personally I only prefer near mint copies. Now I wanted to draw attention to this card because I believe that it can be a potentially very useful combo extender in certain decks and can be made without clogging an opened up zone now. I remember when this card was only around like $10 to $12 or so, I thought the card was extremely undervalued, which is the only reason that I noticed that this card was bought out in the first place, because I was just kind of keeping tabs on it. If you have your Ultimate Rare First Edition copies, I would actually be holding onto them for now until we see a good price that you can sell them at, or until we see the card played in a meta deck. I think it's a really good card with a lot of combo potential, and is probably one of the more popular Xyz monsters with the fanbase. So there's a lot of potential for the card to spike up in terms of price. Now, if you don't have your ultimate rare copies already though, I would probably look into grabbing a tin super rare or battle pack shatterfoil reprint relatively soon and just like have it on hand before the card starts seeing any sort of real play. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking around to check everything out. This master rule change has been absolutely crazy. We've seen so many ridiculous buyouts. It's been a lot of fun. However, it can be really easy to get lost in everything or buy into what people are hyping up like online or at your locals. So it really pays to just keep a cool head, Don't make any rash decisions until we see a more clearly defined meta under the new master rule, or you're making a very safe, low-cost investment. Anyways guys, please, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button for me, and as usual, leave a comment down below to let me know what you think of the market, and if there's any cards that maybe I missed or explained incorrectly, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, make sure that you guys are subscribed for all of the latest content from Tombox and myself. And yeah, so until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.